We just started. Here's my first joke. Did anybody get a cookie? So everybody that was here early was like, Miss Moore, we came for the cookies, and tonight you don't have them. I'm still recovering from Monday night, is the honest to God truth of the whole thing. The other thing is we just started in the auditorium tonight, so we didn't move you 3 times because we didn't know what would happen. For those of you that weren't here Monday, the reason why we're laughing about this is that typically our once-a-month parent meetings here that I have for parents brings in about 15 parents. We had almost 800 on Monday night, so it was a little unexpected. But if you were here on Monday and did not get a copy of something, we did bring more copies tonight. We'll be happy to give those to you after the meeting is over. Just try to get more information out to you. But tonight we're here to talk about advanced placement classes, and this is the first year that we've actually had this meeting. If you're new to Monroe High School. And the reason, the purpose for the meeting is that myself and our staff wanted to make sure that parents and students, really students most of all, understood the expectations of advanced placement courses. We thought it would only be right and only be fair if we actually talked about advanced placement courses with parents and students before they actually signed up for the classes, so that they would know what they were signing up for. Advanced placement courses, the curriculum for those courses are set by the College Board. And the College Board is a national agency that every high school in America that offers an advanced placement courses has to teach the same standards with the same amount of rigor. So we have no control over that curriculum. We can't change it. We can't make it less rigorous. We can't make it more rigorous. We just teach the curriculum to the best of our ability. And the whole purpose behind it is so students take the advanced placement exam at the end of the course and earn college credit for those courses. And my staff today will tell you how your child can do that. So we've experienced this year some students who have taken advanced placement courses and really did not know what to expect and were unsure, didn't do the summer work, and then came in the fall and wanted to drop the course because they didn't do the summer work. Or it just got very difficult, or they even were going into report card time, were about to get a B and wanted to drop the course. And because they were afraid it was going to mess up their perfect 4.0 or have a hindrance on their GPA. So another reason why I wanted to talk to you tonight, and this is going to be a little bit redundant for those of you that were here Monday, is I wanted to be really clear and to help start educating our parents and our students on what college admissions are really looking for. And college admissions officers are looking to admit students into their college that take risks, challenge themselves, and are going to be the students that go off and do great things and make something of themselves and make their colleges and universities proud. So one of the most important things that they look at is strength of schedule, not necessarily GPA. So they will tell you time and time again that they will take a student with a 3.6 or a 3.8 with advanced placement courses or dual enrollment courses or just advanced courses in general on their transcript over a student with a 4.0 without having any of those challenging courses. The 3.6 student will get into their university over the 4.0 student. I've talked to many admissions officers this year just to make sure that I'm continuing to give our families good advice and talk to you about that, and they continue to say that. Spoke to some people recently at Eastern Michigan University in their honors college, and they are saying the same thing. Strength of schedule means something. They want students to challenge themselves. They want to see students that take risks. So we're not here tonight to scare our kids from taking advanced placement courses. We're just here to be real, let you know what you're getting yourself into, and hope that you do decide to take advanced placement courses with us here and challenge yourself and do the best of your ability. I just want to thank my instructors for being here tonight. This is my group of advanced placement instructors that put a lot of work into those advanced placement courses. And they're going to go through their just a short overview of their curriculum, talk about the expectations of summer work, and then at the end of the presentation we will answer any questions that you have. I'm also working with the counseling department. God bless you folks, you've been working so hard. I'm so proud of our counseling department. They have been just lightening this place up this year with trying to help me really build a college-going culture at Monroe High School. And I hope the things, if you get my emails or your kids are coming home and talking to you, I hope you see some changes happening at Monroe High School for the better. And we're going to make sure every single one of your children have a post-secondary plan when they leave high school and have as many opportunities open to them as possible. So thank you, Counseling Department A, for being here tonight after Monday. I thought you were going to quit on me after that, but you're still here, and we're good to go. All right, so tonight we're going to talk about, like I said, the overall expectations for advanced placement courses, the benefit of AP classes, the AP test in general, what that means, how you get AP college credit. Accommodations for students with IEPs are available for those students in advanced placement courses. The College Board does honor accommodations, they have to by law. The course expectations that our teachers are going to talk to you about, and any prerequisites that they need. The handout that hopefully you all received is a list of all of our offerings at Monroe High School for advanced placement courses. These are all the AP courses that we offer. Currently, my assistant principal, Mrs. Schultz, is working with our social studies department trying to add some additional AP courses in our social studies department, because it's the only department right now at Monroe High that does not offer an AP course. And AP Political Science and AP History are one of the popular ones that students tend to ask for a lot, so we're trying to get those up and running. Won't be for next year, but hopefully for the following year we'll be able to offer those. Okay, so overall expectations for students. Good attendance. It's really, really important. Usually students that take AP courses are obviously students who are used to getting good grades, a lot of times used to getting all A's, and sometimes used to not having to work really hard in a class. They will work their tail off in an advanced placement course. If your child works, you really need to think about what kind of impact that's going to have on them taking an advanced placement course. They're going to have homework every single night. They're going to have to spend a couple of hours a night working on their advanced placement work. And some of the students that I talked to that ended up wanting to drop their advanced placement courses this year, much of it was due to them overextending themselves, both with too many extracurriculars and actually even more so was jobs, having employment outside the school day. So it's just something to think about. We're not saying it can't be done. We're not going to tell any kid that they aren't AP material. We're here to try to get them to challenge and do the best they can. Just wanted to be upfront with you about that. If they're working at night when they come home from school, it's going to be a real challenge for them to get their AP coursework done. Independent learner and able to maintain a heavy workload. So since AP classes are year-long, it's important for students and parents to know that they are committing to this class for the entire year, which is actually 2 trimesters is the commitment, and then we want them to take the 3rd trimester to study for the AP exam, but the commitment is at least 2 trimesters. And here's the biggie. This is the change for next year that we wanted to make sure that you were all aware of. Because we have high expectations for our students, and we don't believe in our hearts that the right thing to do is allow a student to drop an AP course because they're getting a B. That was really hard for me to swallow, but I had to do it because we did not let parents and students know ahead of time that this was going to be the case, but we are this year, that students under no circumstances will be allowed to drop an AP course. Therefore, serious consideration must be made before choosing an AP course. So, I'll give you an example. One of our AP courses went from an original enrollment of almost 30, and by the end of the first try was down to about 18. So 12 students dropped it. And I'll tell you, most of those 12 students were highly capable of staying in that course, but it was because of this fear of wrecking their GPA or getting a B or C on their report card, they bailed. And I'm just here to tell you that that's just an awful thing. A B or a C in an advanced placement course is still really good. Still really good. Okay, so right now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my counselors, and they're going to talk to you about the good part of taking AP courses. I'm always the drill sergeant, the person that has to say, they make me say all the bad stuff. All right, who's up? Ms. Stewart?
Good evening, my name is Melissa Stewart and I am the counselor for 10th grade. I want to introduce Mr. Hook Rattle. He's our senior counselor this year, but he will be the freshman's counselor next year. And Chris Rossi, she's currently our junior counselor. And Mrs. Warnke, she's our freshman counselor this year. I am also the AP coordinator, so I got that job because I was the smartest counselor. Actually, no, all I do is order the tests, and these guys do all the hard work. The teachers that teach the AP courses have to be approved from the college board. So to be able to be approved to teach it, they do go through a lot of rigors to be able to do that so that your students are getting quality education. Some of the benefits of AP classes, I have them listed up here. They help students to develop character, commitment, perseverance, and a work ethic, which obviously is going to be something important to have when they go off to college and in life after college. Studying and test-taking skills, reading, writing, and critical thinking, collaboration, use of technology, and time management. Like Mrs. Orr was saying, you know, if they have a job or they're an athlete, you know, they've got to figure out how to make this all work. The AP test is given every year in May. It's the first 2 weeks in May. Right now, the test is $89. So they take the AP test and they get a high enough score, they get a college credit for that in most cases, not in all cases, and I'll address that in a second. But for $89, they get that college credit. It is discounted for students who are on free and reduced lunch. I order and process the test usually in March, so I'm getting ready to do that for the students this year, coming up pretty soon. The AP College Credit. The important thing to do probably is to contact, if your student knows what college that they want to attend right now, you should contact that college and make sure that they will be given college credit. Some colleges, let's say a student takes AP Senior English. Some colleges will take it as their freshman English, other colleges will just take it as an elective credit. So it's important to know which colleges will accept them and which ones will just use it as an elective credit or whatnot. And it depends on the score that you get. Some colleges will take a 3, some colleges you have to have a 5 on the test, just depends on the college. I already mentioned that part. If a student has an IEP and needs accommodations for the test, the counselor needs to know first thing in the fall, because there's a lot of paperwork that has to be processed, and we have to get approval for students to have accommodations on the test. Okay, so I'm going to introduce our first AP teacher. He's going to talk about his subject, and then he'll just pass it along to the next AP teacher. So first of all, AP Calculus, we have Mr. Rausch.
All right, on my way up, I was just warned about time, so I'll try not to go too long. In the AP Calculus class, everything is set up primarily to get ready for the test, and then as a secondary kind of goal is to get them ready for college. And so it's actually set up so that it mimics a lot of colleges' pattern of going one day of lecture, one day of recitation, one day of lecture, one day of recitation. Although lecture is kind of a misnomer, I actually don't talk the entire 72 minutes, although it probably feels like it. They'll actually do problems in class and make sure they have their questions answered. I asked them to give me between 1 and 2 hours of homework, depending on the assignment and how it's going for them. The college standard is usually 3 hours of work outside of class for every 1 hour in, so that's actually probably underselling it a little bit. And then the next day, what I'll call the recitation day, they'll come in, the problems that they have, an issue with that they want to discuss or whatever, they'll put up on the board. If someone's already has their number up there, they'll put a check mark, and those are the ones that we'll kind of go through in detail. If it's not going well, I might do them. If they're doing okay, I may have someone else do them or walk me through it. Again, it's very interactive, but it's not a day of new content. So once all the questions are answered on what I call the recitation day, then I ask them to go home that night and give me about half an hour going back over things that might be an issue. So there is a pretty good time commitment pretty much every night. On the recitation days, they are supposed to take notes. Like I said, there's problems that they're supposed to do, and they're expected to have all of that written down every other day during whatever the lecture, for lack of a better word. There are about 3 or 4 tests, as well as a post-test every trimester. In order to get them ready for the AP test, these tend to be significantly more rigorous than they're used to in their previous math classes. A lot of students are used to a test that's kind of set up where 70% of it is super easy. There's a couple that make them think a little bit, and then maybe 1 or 2 to separate the A's from the B's. And the AP board, on the AP calculus test, typically a score of around 65% gets the highest rank of a 5. Somewhere around a 50% gets the 4. 35% correct or so is usually 3, and that's what they consider passing. So in order to get them ready for a test that's that rigorous, I have to give a test that rigorous also. And so the adjustment is I hand a test back to a kid and it says 65% on it, and I say, "Nice job," and they stare at me. That's where you come in. I have to sell them that when you're getting it back, you have to think about it as 65%, 50%, 35%, 25%, not 90, 80, 70, 60. And so the tests are a great way to get them ready for the AP test, but they also are a little bit disconcerting the first couple times that they do that. Each trimester, there's 2 projects. They're done outside of class. Typically, they're given a week or 2 to do so. Sometimes they are as interesting as driving down the interstate and taking measurements, or one of them you have to design a parachute and try to have it drop an egg without having the egg shatter, and some of them are a little less interactive. But there's 2 every trimester. And the idea is that one of the big concepts that maybe isn't represented well in a test problem, or something that's difficult for students to understand, they actually can get a hold of. And then the last one's usually a very popular one. As part of our end-of-year project, we usually take a trip to Cedar Point. We do a lab where we go through and measure the length of a roller coaster track using Riemann sums and all kinds of things that when they first heard about it, they're like, "You can't do that." And when they leave and do a write-up, they're actually impressed that they can. So the projects tend to be sort of a, "What are you doing to me?" at the time, and then something to look back and it's their favorite part of the course. And then I was also asked to talk about whatever summer work that they have for the course, and I was like, "People assign work over the summer? Cool." In the past, I haven't really done that. In the AB class, and if you're curious, there is 2 different flavors of calculus. The AB class we'll actually start with a review chapter going over some basic functions and ideas from trigonometry and algebra. And then redo limits, which a lot of students have done if they took pre-calculus the previous year. The BC class actually starts in chapter 3 in the book, and we assume that you remember everything you've ever been taught in any math class. And we start in assuming you have your limits from the previous year. So the only thing I could really think of is if you're taking the BC class, you might want to look at your pre-calc notes and make sure that you have things down about limits, but there's not like a big packet or anything that you have to come and turn in the first day of school yet. But I like the idea. I brought some handouts, and I have a woefully small amount. It's nice to see so many people turn out, but I don't have enough. So what I want to conclude with is I want to give you my email, and if you would like handouts about common questions in the class or more details about any of the tests or anything, there's a few up here, and help yourself. But my email is Rausch, R-A-U-S-C-H, @monroe.k12.mi.us. And make sure you use the subject line AP handouts or calculus handouts, because if you go to my spam filter, I won't know. So if you put that in the subject line, I'll know to check in, and I can send you a copy of all 4 of them if that's what you like. Oh, the ones They're making copies. But if you want to email and say hi, please do. Are we doing? All right, we're doing questions at the end, so I guess I'm not going anywhere. I'm good. So, and this is apparently not alphabetical, our AP Stats teacher is Mr. Vidlowski.
According to this right here, and I only have one slide as well, and the main reason that the PowerPoint isn't quite as nice as I guess it might have been is we were going to do all this last week, and then we weren't here, so we're kind of working through some stuff. But I'll tell you at the beginning here with AP Stats, and I asked a couple of people around here if I should start with this quote, and they said, well, basically, go big or go home. So if I offend somebody by this, I'm going to say, I can't do it. Basically what I was going to say, if I'm going to offend you with this quote, you probably shouldn't take my class, because then I'm going to do other stuff that's going to offend you. But really the quote has been attributed to a lot of other people, and it says basically there's three kinds of lies. Lies, damn lies, and statistics. That does not mean I'm teaching kids in the class how to lie. By this point, they're really good at that already, trust me. We all know that that's the case. But the reason I mention that is because stats is going to be a lot different than any other class that they take for AP, because there's not really an introductory type class to that. For example, with Mr. Rauch talking about calculus, it's based on all the other math classes they've had. Same thing with like English classes, it's the same sort of ideas, just in more depth, and they do it basically a whole lot harder. In stats, they have not had a class like this at all. We do stuff that's going to be, you would think, does not relate to stats one bit at all, and show how all sorts of things relates to statistics. And the one thing I want to mention here is the last bullet point here, and where I say common sense and good communication skills are way, way, way more important than your math skills in stats. Even though if you take the class that's a math credit, you can get 1.5 credits if you take it all 3 trimesters. There's not really a lot of math. We do not solve equations very often. I would say we probably solve less than 20 for 3 trimesters. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be taking some sort of real world information and making sense out of it. So the idea is that what's going to happen is that they can see the value in this class because it relates to all sorts of real world stuff. And I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try something here really quick. Just to show you how this works. So what I want you to do really quick is just in your head, think of a number 1, 2, 3, or 4. Now, anybody who picked the number 1, raise your hand. Okay, notice there's not very many people around here at all that did that. So if you were expecting it to be equal, about 1/4 of the people to raise their hand, there's a good reason this doesn't happen. And we're going to relate this, how this relates to statistics, is if you happen to be in a public bathroom with 4 stalls, first stall's the one to go into, because it's going to be the cleanest one, because nobody else goes there. And I'll ask you this right now, is how many people picked the number 3? Which stall should you not go into? The 3rd one, because that one's going to be gross. So stuff like that we talk about in stats. How something like this, a simple, people pick 1, people don't pick 1, people pick 3. That's the kind of things that we're going to do. Probably didn't think that we were going to talk about bathrooms here, but there you go. And my first bullet point here, it says reading. You're going to see this for lots of other classes. The reading is going to be way lower in this class than in other classes because we do more things inside of class. And I'll be honest, because I was telling you about lying, I got 25 pages per week. I looked at the length of the book and divided by the number of weeks we have class, and I got 25. That's where that came from. The one other thing that I want to mention, I'm trying to keep this a little bit shorter basically, is that the one thing that I find that students who are going to do well in stats is I treat this, like everybody else does, as a college type class. The one thing that I do, that I don't know if other people do or not, is that I assign homework problems, and I suggest that you do this, but as happens in most college classes, is this is just recommended. I don't check it, people can ask me questions about it, they should do it because it will help them, but they don't have to. If you, as a student, are the type of person who would not do the homework because it's not going to directly affect your grade and I'm not going to count it, you should not take this class because you will do poorly. If you're the type that realizes that the practice is going to help and you're going to do better on the exam, then you will be okay. Because I do the same thing as like Mr. Roush was mentioning, is kids freak out when they get tests where the average on every single test, and there's 7 of them because there's 7 units, is about 50%. But on a AP score, that's about a 3 for the stats test. You need about 65 to 70% to get a 5, which is as high as it goes. And that kind of thing happens. One of the things that I wanted to mention here is that actually this year what happens for every AP exam is there's a multiple choice part and there's a free response part where they have to do essay type questions. That happens a lot in stats. This is going to be my 3rd year that I'm going to Kansas City actually to go spend a week away from my family to grade AP stats exams. I know, woohoo, fun. But do that, but it gives me a really good insight into the kind of things that they're looking for. So it helps me to help the students and say, okay, you need to do this because if you change, in some cases, 1 word on your response, it's the difference between getting it right and getting it almost right, which could be the difference between getting college credit or not getting college credit. I don't want to make it that big of a deal, but it could be. So it gives me an insight into the kind of things that they're looking for, which helps people do better on their exams. I think that's all I got, because we're saving questions for the end, right? Okay. AP Chemistry. AP Chemistry is Mr. Davis.
Thank you. I don't know about you, but I'm all fired up, ready to go take AP Calc and AP Stats. I love math. That sounds pretty fun to me. A lot of the things that they already mentioned as far as time requirements and background of students is going to apply to all the AP courses and in AP Chemistry as well. AP Chemistry is, I'd like to say it's a new course because we didn't have it for a few years and we started it back up this year. So we're still in the process of building it and a lot of things have changed, a lot of requirements have changed since we had it before. Some of the main focus, we're looking for 11th graders or 12th graders who have a strong interest and are strong top science students. A strong math background helps because there is a lot of algebra involved in chemistry. So we're looking for people that are strong in math and science. But again, something that has been mentioned is learning how to communicate both written and verbally. And so a big focus in AP Chemistry is what is called an inquiry-based lab, and there are 16 that are required for AP Chem. And so doing things not necessarily from a cookbook that says do this, then do this, then do this, then do this, but actually designing and coming up with the experiment yourself. And in fact, one of the things I thought was fun this year is for our first trimester final exam, 60% of the final exam grade was actually a laboratory-based grade where the students came in and of course they had a chance to prepare for it, and we did a lab very similar to that during the trimester. But they basically got the supplies, all the supplies they needed, and were asked to accomplish a few things and write up a formal lab report, and that counted 60%, which was actually more than the paper and pencil test portion of the final exam. And it was a lot of fun, and I saw some really good results. So being able to write a formal lab report using formal language and professional language is very important, and it's something that we maybe haven't practiced enough in our traditional chemistry courses, so that's something we really focus on. Doing projects and creating multimedia presentations, and of course reading from the text and reading from outside sources. Being able to think about, analyze text, and solve problems. That's one of the big focuses of AP Chemistry. So again, we're looking for people that have a really strong interest in science, that want to study science in college or maybe have a career in science, that really are the kind of students, again, who will make that extra effort to do homework even when the homework may not be graded. Not the kind of student that will just sit back and say, well, that homework isn't counting for a grade, it's only the test that matters, so I'm not going to do that homework, I'm just going to wait and take my chance on the test. We want people who are interested enough in it that they'll go that extra mile and complete the extra work that it takes. So, and again, I'll be available for any questions, and my email is davisj, so feel free to send me an email if you have any questions. There are a lot of Davises, I think, so if you just type Davis, it will go to somebody else, so make sure you get the J on it. And Mr. Christensen's next with AP Physics.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. I'm Mr. Christensen. This is my 8th year teaching AP Physics. I've actually taught it in a couple of different districts. And it's one of my most favorite parts of the day. I really get to work with some of the best and brightest students that we have to offer here, and I get to see them learn and struggle. And that doesn't make me happy that they're struggling, but they learn through their struggles, because like so many people have said, these are the students who have done so well, but maybe haven't been challenged. And this might be one of the first times that they're really, really honestly challenged, and they're going to have not 100% on every test. And that's okay, but what I'm really looking for in AP Physics is the ability to solve complex problems. And we do that in physics, but that carries over to other classes and the ability to solve problems that might have nothing to do with math or physics. Also, we do a lot of collaborative work. You see a couple pictures up here. This was on another parachute lab, which was similar to Mr. Rausch's, but it was based on timing rather than impulse. And we do a lot of collaborative work in AP Physics, and we try to have a lot of competitions and labs that really push the students in the design element of engineering, and we try to space that out into different types, because at this point, a student might know that I like the idea of going into engineering, but there's so many different types of engineering out there that we see some of the chemical engineering and chemistry and the biological engineering and biology, but within physics itself we have mechanical, electrical, and then with mechanical that can be broken up into different things. So I really want to expose the students to a lot of different options in engineering and really try to pique that interest before they go to college. And maybe they already know what their major is, but maybe they don't. And this gives them the opportunity to know what they might be interested in when they go to sign up for classes at their university or college or wherever they end up, whatever they end up doing. But Physics Olympiad is another thing up here, and that's something that we do in the spring every year. That's a competition where Monroe High School goes and competes against other high schools all over the state of Michigan at U of M in Ann Arbor. And there's several different physics competitions, like building catapults, solar cars, building pasta bridges, electro launcher was one last year, but there's a lot of things. So the students, after going through 2 trimesters and an AP test where we've been doing a lot of collaborative work, then get to work together to compete against other physics students. And we've been very successful at the competition, and we always have a great time. It's amazing the number of AP Physics students that I get to show up on a Saturday morning in Ann Arbor, and it's always the day after prom. But they show up. They might not have gone to sleep yet, but they show up, and we have a great time. AP Physics, I think, is one of the most fun classes, and I usually have students say they enjoy it. People are thinking AP Physics, what could be fun about that? But we have a good time. We get to build a lot of things and get to blow some things up every once in a while, too. You can email me as well, and I'll be staying afterwards if you have any individual questions. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Doug Shade. I teach the 11th grade English language and composition class here at Monroe High School. I think this is the 6th year that I'm doing this here at the high school. I can't believe it's been that long, because it, in a lot of ways, seems like we just started yesterday, but time flies, and I'm getting old, I guess. So I now feel like the kid in my class. In my class, a lot of times I'll take kids, and we make a big oval, and we start on this side, and they just have to stand and deliver. And the kids on this side sit there, and you can see them going, oh, he took mine. Oh, she took mine. Oh. I'm now sitting here knowing exactly how those students feel. So I'm not gonna, ironically, I may not be very elaborate. A lot of what you heard already, all I can say to that is, yes, that applies to my class as well. Specifically, what I will say is that almost every student I have is an 11th grader, so I am often their first experience with AP. And about 6 weeks in, usually, I can kind of read the kids and the rhetoric off their faces and whatever. I say, so how's it going? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rank this class as far as being hard? And generally the answer is about 14.5. Okay, so I guess shock would be maybe the correct word to use to describe their initial experience with AP. To our kids' credit, we have a lot of great kids, and we have a lot of kids who work really, really hard. And I really am glad we're having this night tonight, because a lot of what's been said here is what I generally say almost on the first day of class. So now that's been done for me. Specifically about my class, let me say this. Certainly the kind of student that we are looking for is one who is self-motivated. And beyond that, if you're going to take AP English, and I think Mr. McCloskey would agree with 12th grade as well, you need to like to read and write. You need to like to read and write a lot. Okay? Because like I heard with some of the other AP classes, although you may not get assigned homework that night, there's homework. There's something you need to do to prepare. And again, if you're the kind of student where, you know, you're thinking, I really don't want to do that, then you probably shouldn't enroll in this class. Okay? Another kind of disclaimer for my class. The language and composition class, really the heavy focus of it is nonfiction text and expository writing. It is not narrative, it is not story. Although there is some of that, certainly, throughout the course of the year, we enjoy that. We kind of use narrative in this class as our break and our enjoyment, and then we kind of get back to work. I will tell you that I think over the course of the year, I know first try, basic essay response, and everything that goes into that is the major focus. And I think there was an essay due every week, the first try. Okay, so I mean that's what we're talking about. We're now getting involved more in different types of essays, different rhetorical modes, research, that kind of thing. And again, there's probably a half an hour of work a night. Like some of the other classes you've heard, I don't check it. A lot of it isn't really even assigned, other than we're talking about, you know, you should be doing this now, you should be thinking about that, you should be doing that. And again, it's just that, it's that piece where the student is self-motivated and willing to work on their own, okay? But I do really want to mention that we focus on nonfiction, both reading and writing of those texts. And one of the myths is that that's boring. Who wants to read nonfiction? Oh, who wants to write well, actually, if you get into the study of it, even in nonfiction text, there's quite a bit of style, and there's scheme, and there's trope, and there's artfulness to it, and we spend a lot of time working on that. And I think over time, a lot of the people who come to me who enjoy narrative, and they live narrative, and story is their life, and for a while they have to struggle through the nonfiction, start to appreciate it, and actually start liking it, and by the end, I think really enjoy the class. I really like the class because I think more than anything, it teaches kids how to read well, speak well, and write well. And no matter what discipline you're going to be in, no matter what you think you're going to be when you grow up, no matter where you want to go or what you want to do, those are skills that are absolutely essential for success. So there are a lot of things I could ramble on about. I'm not going to. So they changed the slide on me. Look at that. My email address is schade, shade@monroe.k12.mi.us. And certainly if you shoot me an email, I will be willing to be extremely elaborate and send you anything you'd like to see. The syllabus is about 9 pages long, so I didn't want to waste time printing those up if people didn't want to see those. Okay, so thanks again for being here tonight, and if there's anything I can answer for you, please let me know. And I believe that Mr. McCloskey is next.
Ditto. What they've said is what I have to say as well. We go from nonfiction in the 11th grade to, this is the literature and composition class. And so we delve into the literature. We come back to the narrative, to the story. And you can, I mean, after the slide, undoubtedly you will want to sign up for the class as well. And there might be an age limit, so I don't know if you, but we read Death of a Salesman, we read Oedipus the King, A Dollhouse, Waiting for Godot. Come on now, right? It's the curriculum, right, that pulls people in. There's great stuff here. We delve into it, and like everything else, it's the communication of it, but it's also the understanding it. It has to be self-motivational. You know this, that I can't make anyone read. It'd be very strange if I went over to your house and sat next to you and went, are you reading? Keep going. Another page. What are you doing in my living room? Where's my gun? Right? That, I can't make you read. And every year I get folks who, I didn't finish it because I had real homework. I had calc. But my chemistry, I just have to read for you. Well, it's not just reading, right? There are other things to it, but that's part of the conversation. And that's part of college. When you go and they give you the syllabus and say, we're going to talk about Faulkner on this day, we're going to talk about crime and punishment on this day, we're going to talk about this, they will expect you to do the reading, to do the thinking, come to class and have meaningful conversations. Me too. And I know that they have a lot of other things to do, and they have, absolutely. But it's that kind of thing that we want. If you don't like to read or you don't like to write, this may not be the class for you. But I don't want just English teachers. You know, if you like good stories, if you like good literature, sign up. Absolutely. Okay, so those, and I have this as a handout, and again, it's the first day stuff. I talk about this on the first day. You can email me. It's my last name without the Y, budget cuts, MCCLOSKE and then the rest. So if you have any questions, I have like 20 copies of these things, so I don't have enough. But I have this, and I also have the summer reading, so I'll get to that in a second. Yes, reading and writing. Next slide, please. The next slide is just what everyone else has said. You can't read it because of my font color. I apologize for that. But it talks about critical thinking skills. You are learning the skills that you need in college and in life. In this AP class, and that one, and that one. You know, in all of these classes, this is what people do. And not just in college, but in the workforce, in places where you interact with other people. There are certain things that you need, certain communication skills, certain stick-to-itiveness, right? You have mental fortitude. This reading is hard. I know. It's James Joyce. It's not easy, right? Where are the sparkly vampires? Right? Where's Twilight? I want Twilight. No. Please read that. Absolutely. It's brain candy. But we also have to take a look at Samuel Beckett. We have to look at Godot. And I love, we all have our gimmicks, right? We do various things. And the literature for me, I like giving them things that they can sort of grasp and go, yeah, there's something here. And then I give them something by James Baldwin, Sonny's Blues. And then I give them Ibsen, and they go, this is, I understand this. And I say, I know it's 100 years ago and in Norway, but this is meaningful right now, 2014. And then I give them Godot, and their head sort of explodes. And they're like, look, some people say this is the greatest work in the 20th century. I agree with those people. It takes a little to get them onto my side, but eventually some of them agree. It's, all right, so next slide, please. This is the summary. Again, you can't read this. What I want them to do is I want them to think, and I want them to read. I asked them to read 3 books over the summer. A nonfiction work, which I've listed. That's the large list on the left-hand side. It's a nice segue from if they take Shade's class to my class. You don't have to take the 11th grade AP class or take the 12th grade AP class. I still like nonfiction. Good nonfiction. I know this is good nonfiction. So I asked them to read one of those. I asked them to read a dystopian novel. And I've given them a list. Fahrenheit 451, 1984, Handmaid's Tale. There are 4 up there. If they've read something, it's the same thing. And I know Mr. Shade does this. On the syllabus, it says something like, if you're trying to get out of this assignment, you've all been students, you know that. You get something and you're like, what are the loopholes? How can I not do all of this without, I've been to college, I prioritize, and so I understand that. But you know, if you're looking to do that in the summer before you're even in the class, you might want to go in a different direction. Because I asked them to do nonfiction, I asked them to do a fiction, a dystopian novel, and then the 3rd book, a book of your choice. Choice is so important. And I tell them, it needs to be your reading level, it needs to be something you haven't read before, and it has to be of interest to you. Because granted, they might not, on the outset, love Crime and Punishment, but they do read John Green. They do read, Stephanie Meyer. They do read Grisham. Absolutely. And you need to keep doing that. Choice is so important. So I've worked choice into my curriculum as well. And I think that's it. So I'll be around for questions if you have them. Mr. Shuko, AP Biology.
Hi, I'm Mr. Shuko, I teach AP Biology. First of all, let me start with, saying the same things that everybody else has said. I don't know where to stand, apparently. I I don't like microphones because I talk loud enough. So this is going to drive me crazy, but that's okay. Obviously, AP Biology is a lot of work, just like any AP class. The type of student who would be interested in this or should be interested in AP Biology would be somebody who is entertaining anything in the science field, obviously. It doesn't even have to necessarily be biology, chemistry, physics. If you're going to be a science major, please take this course. But certainly anybody who is interested in pre-vet or pre-med or anything bioengineering, biostats, biophysics, even earth science. This would be a good class for you. So some things that I want to share with you, which you can't read that because I can't read that, unless you have really good eyes, and mine are not very good. This just goes through a lot of my expectations. I think the one thing that really probably surprises students when they take AP Biology is the amount of reading that I require. It's a lot, at least 30 to 60 minutes a night. And it could be more than that. The reason for that is that biology is its own language. And when we talk about the different biological aspects, you have to know various terms to be able to intelligently talk about them and to understand them at a deep level. So, you know, the reading is a really major part of this course. Up and above that, I do give a lot of homework, like a lot of the other instructors. That's not necessarily graded work, that's for your benefit. But the assignments that I give obviously will challenge students and develop this knowledge. When we look at the exams for AP Biology, these are college level exams, which is probably what you would expect. So a lot of more application-based exams. I'm not a real fan of giving you an exam where I say, oh yeah, just tell me the definition for natural selection, or tell me the definition of a chloroplast. I'm going to ask you questions where you have to apply a particular process, concept, or idea to even new situations. I require deep level thinking. So students really struggle with this initially because, you know, typically the first run through in biology, it's like, hey, let's just memorize a bunch of different facts and terms and I'll be great. But that's not how it really works, because if you want to have a significant understanding of anything in any subject, whether it's chemistry, physics, English, you have to know more than just a bunch of terms. So the tests tend to be really tough, and they tend to require a lot of studying. So minimally, 10 to 15 hours, maybe more, and that doesn't guarantee you anything except for a chance to do well. Okay, I'm moving on. One thing about AP Biology that I want to share with you, which is a little special, is that there's a big technology aspect. I'm a big tech person, and that, you know, we talk about 21st century skills, and that to me really comes in a lot of ways. For example, I use Google Docs, or they use Google Docs to have students do collaborative work, to work on lab reports and various projects, creating PowerPoints and things called Prezis, you know, where students actually have to, you know, use these various apps and different modes for sharing information. Communication is key. I'm really interested in students being able to not only know something, but convey that, right? So communicate that in various formats. It's really important to me. We actually do a lot of data manipulation, a lot of calculations in AP Biology. That's one of the things that really surprises folks. Because when students take it as a freshman, it is a lot of like, hey, let's just know all this information. But there aren't a lot of calculations done. But we do a lot of calculations. That really surprises people. So we use graphic calculators or scientific calculators. We also use things like Excel, because it's a lot easier to use Excel than it is to use your calculator to do certain things. So there's a huge technology aspect, and that's really to the benefit of the student. The last thing I want to share about technology is that I use something called Mastering Biology. And that is basically a site where there are online assignments. And those I actually do check. They give me a lot of information, but this particular site also has a lot of tutorials, videos, and animations that really help students solidify these concepts in their mind. I do give summer work. The summer work that I'm going to give is really a combination of some basic chemistry review, science practices and principles. One thing about AP Biology, like the AP Chemistry, is that there are a lot of inquiry labs. There are certain science practices that we really want students to develop and come out of this course knowing. And what I find is that it's really good to have students start off with getting this kind of organized in their mind before they even walk into the classroom. So I require that. The last thing I'm going to require is a book study. I'm not sure what that's going to be yet. But I really want students to see that there are other readings, other texts out there that have good biology knowledge other than just their textbook, which is fun.
Thank you. I don't know about you guys, but I want to take all of those classes. I mean, I know these teachers, but they're just in their element when they're talking about this subject that they're so passionate about. Thank you all. And Mr. Overachiever, I had to knock Mr. Stuko's slides from 12 to 3, or we would still be here at like 9 o'clock tonight. As many years as I've been the AP...
That's why people love my class.
As many years as I've been the AP coordinator, every year I call Mr. McCluskey and I say, I can't remember, are you literature or language? And as he's up here talking, I'm thinking, duh, he's literature, without a doubt. So we have listed up here, and I think we have copies, right, for them to have of the oh, you already have them. The prerequisites for each of these classes. Since you have them, you don't need me to read these, do you?
Just so you know where to find the prerequisites, on that form that you have with all of these things. Jamie's my secretary, she's always on duty. She's over there pointing at something I did wrong. I dropped the mic like McCloskey did when he came up here and said ditto. Now I forgot what I was saying. Oh, on that form, for each course, after the title, right underneath the title is the prerequisite. So that will tell you exactly what the prerequisite is in order to be able to take the course. Before we move on to questions and talk about the applications, just wanted to speak about one additional course that the instructor is not here. We don't have any slides for it, but I just want to make sure that our students know that you can put in a course request for it next year, and that is AP Environmental Science. Our teacher for that course is also an athletic coach, and he's working with one of our teams right now, so he couldn't be here. So if you're interested in AP Environmental Science, you can email Mr. Columbus, and I'm sure he'd be happy to share any information with you about that course. Outside, when you leave tonight, are applications for all of these courses. And this is a little bit different this year as well, so I wanted to make sure we're really clear about the process before we take questions and exit. Students who are interested in any of the courses that you heard about tonight, you'll need to pick up an application for that course out on one of the two tables that's outside. We do have two tables that are exactly like all the applications are on both tables, so you only just need to go to one table to get the application. Students need to fill out the application, read it very well. Parents, please read it as well, and students and parents will sign it. On the application, there is a spot for students to write down 2 teachers that they think will recommend them for that course. One of the teachers, at least one of the teachers, some courses require both teachers. I think AP Calc is one of them, that you have to pick 2 math teachers that you think would recommend you for the course. A lot of the other courses, it's just one teacher in the content area, but we need the names of 2 teachers who we can talk to about you and whether you would be a good candidate for AP courses. Now, those teachers are not going to be able to stop you from taking an AP course. We're not going to stop you from taking an AP course, but what we are going to do is we're going to reach out to those teachers. We're going to give them a list of all of the students that put their name down, and we're going to ask them to contact the counselors about any students that they are concerned about their being successful in the course. And they're going to tell us why. The counselor will call your child down to them, they will call you, and together they will talk to you about those concerns. Maybe your child is telling you that they think that they're going to be very successful in AP biology, but when you hear from their freshman biology teacher some things that they noticed while they spent time with your child, that's something that you need to know as a parent as you talk and make a family decision about what courses your child's going to take next year. If after hearing that you still believe that this is, what you and your child wants to do, absolutely, still sign up for the course. We just wanted to make sure that you have all of the information you need to be able to make a knowledgeable decision and have the information from the teachers that actually taught your child that something in that content area. So we're not going to turn any child away from being able to take an AP course. Any child that wants to take an AP course that have fulfilled the prerequisites will be allowed to take the AP course. But if you get that phone call from the counselor, please listen to what they have to say, engage in a conversation with them, and talk through it and make the best decision that you can make. Another reason, obviously, why we're doing that is because we have said that we're not going to allow students to drop the course once they're enrolled. So we don't want kids that we have a bunch of red flags on getting enrolled in the course and the parents having no idea that we had some concerns about them taking the course, okay? So you're gonna go out there, you're gonna pick up the application, your child's gonna fill it out in completion. There's a deadline written right on the application, which I believe is February 14th. Okay, that application has to get turned into the counseling department by February 14th, because that's when we're gonna compile the lists and get those lists out to the teacher. Those applications do not have to be signed by those recommending teachers. Your kids don't have to run around the school and try to find the teachers to sign those. They just need to write down the names of those teachers. We'll take it from there. We'll do all the work from there, reach out to those teachers and ask them for their feedback. Okay? So with that, I hope what you're hearing is that our advanced placement courses are rigorous and are an excellent way of preparing your child for college. I like to keep track as many of my graduates as I can. This is my first year at Monroe, but I have contacts with my kids from Wayne Memorial in many different colleges across the state, and Facebook is a great thing. I don't let them contact me until they're 20, but a lot of them will email. I don't like to see what they're doing prior to that. So, but I like to keep in contact with my kids because the first question I always ask them was, did we do a good job preparing you? What is your feedback for me as the principal on your preparation for college or university? Are we doing right by you? Do you feel like you got what you needed in high school to be successful in college? And what I can tell you, I hear over and over and over again, and I'm sure it's going to be the same case with our teachers here at Monroe High, is that the advanced place, they thank us for having advanced placement courses, because the kids tell me over and over and over again that they feel that those AP courses really prepared them for college coursework. So even though they're hard, they're taught like a college course, and they learn a lot, and they learn really good habits, and then they go to their freshman year of college and feel success. So even though it's going to be difficult, it's going to be a challenge, it can be a really great thing for your kids. Okay? So with that, I didn't know you guys were so, just such great presenters. Did a fabulous job. Didn't they do a great job? They're so engaged. Engaging teachers make engaging presentations. So with that, I've got counselors here and all of the AP teachers, obviously, myself, and you just want to raise your hand and we will take some questions. Yes, ma'am. AP coordinator, you want to answer that? Melissa, are you paying attention? She wants to know, when are the AP exams given? Are they given during class or on the weekends?
They're given in the first 2 weeks of May. We have a schedule that the AP board sets. It's a national test, so every school across the country gives it at the same time every year. And it is over at the community college. I rent rooms over at the community college, and then I let the students know. They get all the paperwork a couple of weeks in advance of what they need to bring, what they should not bring. We don't bus them. They drive themselves, because it's usually students who can drive, or the parents drop them off. Morning tests are usually like 7:30 in the morning till noon. Afternoon tests are noon to about 2:30 or 3. And at community college. Oh yes, they're during the week, sorry. And they're excused from their classes here. The teachers all get an excusal list of what students are doing AP testing. Mr. McCluskey always brings breakfast for his students. They all love that. And one thing I did want to mention that I forgot to mention, The students who are in here, I know that they're all, the teachers are all talking about how much work it's going to be and how difficult it is and how prepared you have to be. And I don't want you to be scared about that, as Mrs. Orr said. I want to mention to you that at the end of the year, we have our SUMA grads choose a guiding force to give this award to of a person who has made a huge difference in their life, who has taught them to be a better person, a better learner, all of those things. And these are the teachers that usually get those awards. So they're doing something really great.
Is there a reason why we go to the community college for the test and we don't do it here?
Quiet, no bells.
Quiet, no bells.
Big space.
Big
They have
space.
to have, you know, there's separation of so much.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. When does the College Board put those dates up? They're already online? They're already online on the College Board. Or you can talk to our AP coordinator, who's the smartest counselor, and she can help you get those dates. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. She asked, just so you all hear, if a student starts to struggle since we don't let them out, what is the help that a child can expect to receive if they start to struggle? You want to answer that on behalf of your teacher?
Yeah, I can answer that a little bit. I know that we're all happy to come in the morning, in the afternoon to say help whenever we can. But we can always point students in the right direction to find a tutor or to find online resources, or there's a lot of, you remember the Kaplan Review, Princeton Review books. There are a lot of books that go right along, and every year they're updated to go right along with the AP courses. So there are lots of resources out there that we can suggest.
But you guys usually stay after on most days to work with kids, right? I know, Roush, you're here till at least like 5 o'clock on most nights working with calc kids. Doug J cannot get the microphone fast enough.
Okay, so I very rarely ever stay after school, but in my class, every Monday and Friday we have a workshop format, and that makes me available to work with any of my students one-on-one for as long as they need, for whatever they need. So in my course, I'm not here a lot before or after. I like to sleep in the morning. That's really important to me. And I'm actively coaching at the high school level, so I just don't have that time. But certainly the class format lends itself that way to any kind of individual instruction, small group instruction, whatever. One of the things I really stress in my course, especially with writing, because that's really daunting for a lot of our students, is that, I don't care if they don't get it the first time, the 10th time, the 25th time, whatever. We're going to just keep plugging away and working on it, and eventually they're going to get it. But, the onus is on the student to be responsible, to realize they're struggling and approach me to do that work and have that contact. In a college-like atmosphere, we're not going to be following your child around going, so how you doing? You okay? I mean, we expect that students are going to be, again, self-motivated, self-responsible, and if they need to approach a teacher, they'll do that. So I just wanted to pipe in on that. Sorry.
And the flip side of that, if someone does approach a teacher, I am about as available as it gets. Morning's a little tough because I live in Ohio, but I have people come in during their lunch, I have people come in during my planning, I have people stay after school. When we get ready for our final exams, I even offer to meet them at like a Taco Bell, and we'll do what I call the Last Supper right before the exam. And we'll sit down and just solve problems. In addition to that, I've got the last 2 years of the problems that I solved in class on my website, so people can go back and see if the problem that they're having has been solved and kind of work backwards from what they have and try to understand it. I can tell when students are using it too, because their question starts with, now online the way you did this was, and it sort of helps them get past that and maybe do another problem that they can't see. In addition to us though, one of the things I encourage the class to do within the first week is to form a study group. Because when I was in college, I tried to do it on my own for about 1.5 years, and I did okay. But I found that there were certain things I was really good at, like remembering the information and understanding the concept, and things that I wasn't as good at, like writing the proof of what I understood. And so when I got together with other people who were good at writing proofs, we actually both got something from that. And so I've tried to encourage the students to do the same thing. I said, try to make sure it's not more than 4 people, because otherwise it becomes a big gossip fest and you'll find out what happened at band, but you won't know anything about calculus. But if you have about 4 people, and if you walk into Panera any given night and you see people who look frustrated, that's typically where the study groups meet. But that would be another thing that doesn't even involve us, but the study groups have seemed to have helped in the past.
Okay, yes, sir?
Is there a lot of difference between the AP courses and dual enrollment courses?
Do you guys want it's the curriculum, I would say the rigor, they're both college level courses. You know what, Scott actually, or Ms. McCluskey actually teaches at the community college, and so he'd probably be a perfect person to answer that.
Depending on, at the college I teach Composition 151 and 152, and that's Doug. That's what you do in AP language and composition. A lot of writing, a lot of rhetorical modes. We're gonna write an essay, a definition essay. We're gonna do a comparison and contrast essay. We're gonna do these. Because that's what you need to do on a college level. No matter what college you go to, you need that introductory writing class. The lit in language is more like intro to poetry and drama, or intro to fiction, or something. So when you take the senior level class, a dual enrolled class would be Shakespeare, or would be, like I say, intro to fiction or poetry and drama, because you study the literature and you write about it, but it's the analysis of literature. So the curriculum is essentially the same, but what the outline of instruction for the college course is not the same outline of instruction in my course. In a 151 class, I have 45 contact hours, and they tell me 6 essays, this length, make sure you do this and this and this, but there's leeway. I can discuss whichever rhetorical modes I would like. We see folks every day, and some of the literature, like when I do Comp 152, I do Godot as well. It's so wonderful. You're going to go home and read it, please. And then email me and we'll talk. But yeah, so the curriculum varies depending on high school or college, but it's essentially the same.
And the rigor is both high. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and a lot of those things are really specific to colleges. So what we always say, what she was saying was her experience with her son that went to U of M, did you say Ann Arbor? Was the admissions rep that she talked to when she asked did they recommend that her child her senior year take AP or dual enrollment classes, that they recommended AP courses. What we say and what the counselors will say is as soon as your child starts to hone in on a couple of colleges or universities that they're thinking of, to call that college and ask the question, because they will all answer it differently. Yeah. They're all great. Danielle? Yeah, they'll get, if they get a high enough score, they'll get credit for that, whatever that course is at the college level. So technically, he's saying, what he said, her question was, do they get the same amount of credit for dual enrollment as they do for AP courses? And what my instructors are telling me is sometimes that getting a high enough score on the AP exam will give them credit for even more than one course, more than one college course. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. She asked, is there a novella assignment in 12th grade?
Did you say you're excited about that? She's like, I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. They have to compose a 50 to 75 page novella. So we do a lot of reading, we do a lot of writing, we do...
Can you hear him in the back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give him the mic. He doesn't give it up. There's a novella assignment in 12th grade literature. A novella is a short novel, right? NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month. A novella is a short novel. It's longer than a short story, shorter than a novel. It's about 50 pages, right? Double-spaced, regular font size, regular margins, 50-page story. It's one thing to give them a story and say, let's talk about this, and what do you think? And they go, this is good. And then I ask them to write their own story. And then they think, that was really good. I look at a basketball player and I say, he's good, yeah. I know nothing until I stand on the court and try to do what he's doing. And then I say, he is really good. So when we talk about figurative language, we talk about conflict and character development, they practice those things. But I always say, don't, because some people are like, I don't want to write the novella, that's why I didn't take the class. Don't do that. It's another assignment. This class is not defined by the novella. It's a thing that they talk about a lot when they're at Panera's and not doing their calculus or writing their novella, because they should be at home 250 pages a day in the month of November. So yes, that is one of the assignments.
Say that. I do Blackboard? I have...
Blackboard is online where kids can see things at home.
Yeah.
I'm your interpreter.
So that they can communicate to each other electronically, so the conversation doesn't have to stop after the third hour is over. And that's where the Google documents come in, where they can continue the conversation. And Blackboard...
And that's the kind of stuff that they do in college.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So then is the idea that the students can learn one choice, or can there be more than one choice of
They can sign up for whatever classes they want. So they have up to, 15 classes a year that they can sign up for. They have to meet so many graduation requirements. The great thing, and thinking about one of the things that I can answer in terms of the difference between AP courses and dual enrollment or direct college courses is the advanced placement courses count for high school credit towards graduation. So that takes care of some of those 27 credit slots, which helps them, which is not the case for most direct college or dual enrollment courses. So she can take as many courses that she wants that fits the prerequisite that she can fit into her schedule. Absolutely. Yep, we have lots of students that do that. Just start adding up the amount of work and the hours. Yes, ma'am. And then I think there was somebody else that keeps raising their hand over here.
I know that a lot of the schools for AP classes offer a 5-point credit. Why is it that Monroe doesn't?
That's a great question. The question was, why don't we give the honor point? I could go on and on about a lot of reasons, but I'll tell you the big reason is because the college and university take the honor point out anyways when kids apply. And most kids and families don't know that, but grade point averages are recalculated. But the school I came from, Wayne Memorial, gave honor points for AP courses, and a lot of times I almost felt like we were giving kids bad information. They were thinking that they were graduating and submitting a college application with a 4.2, and their GPA was recalculated by the college or university anyway. So colleges and universities don't accept honor points, so we just stick with the real GPA. Yes, ma'am?
So what would a student take per trimester? How many AP classes would somebody do?
I didn't hear the whole question, I'm sorry.
How many AP classes would you suggest per trimester?
Counselors, how many AP classes would you suggest per trimester? Would you suggest? That's really hard without knowing your child and their circumstances. I really almost hate to answer